going to explain about what is the major purpose for Informatica, what is ETL tool, what is the major importance of ETL tool in the current market right now. And actually see here, first of all, before going to discuss about Informatica, we need to know why we require a ETL tool, for what purpose, what is the reason behind that. First of all, take an example. For example, if anyone started any organization, for every organization we require a database. For if any organization started have some locations like ABC in different locations in USA, India, and UK. If these people are working on databases, after some time, these people require to make an analysis on that databases. At the time, after a period of time, the people need to integrate all the database data into the single data warehouse. For that purpose, we require a ETL tool. ETL tool. In current market, we do have so many ETL tools, but Informatica is a very expensive, and apart from that, very secure one. And most probably, its Informatica tool is developed by using Java code itself. And Informatica is a organization, and for Informatica organization have so many tools apart from Informatica Power Center, like IDQ and MDM, like the so on. But among all the tools of Informatica, among all the tools, Informatica Power Center is the flagship tool for Informatica organization. And right now, we are going to discuss on Informatica. What is ETL tool right now? For example, if anyone working on databases, these people need to integrate all the databases into one data warehouse. At that time, we require any ETL tool. In the traditional way, we people follow some code-based ETL. At that time, we go for Java, and so many code-based ETL tools are there. And apart from that, if we want to integrate any two databases like if any databases like DB2 and Oracle, or any other sources like text files, if you want to integrate these disparate sources into single data warehouse, at the time we can't able to go for code-based ETL. We should have to go for ETL tools like Informatica, Datasheet, Ab Initio, and we do have so many ETL tools in the market right now. Informatica. What is Informatica? Informatica is an organization, and the Power Center is its flagship tool. Right now, in current market, its version is 9.5. Current version is 9.5. Okay. Here, it's related to totally data warehousing for making generating reports and analysis purpose. Here, Informatica, what it will do, first of all, it will extract the data from the disparate sources and transform the data into the data warehouse, or else in database itself. Wherever this any organization want to integrate the data into single data warehouse, at a time, these people need an ETL tool like Informatica, Datasheet, and Ab Initio, so on. Right now, we are discussing on Informatica only. So Informatica is an ETL tool. The expansion for ETL tool is extract the data from disparate sources and transform the data and load the data. What is meant by extraction? First of all, see, in our if any organization started any business whose locations in different places like UK, USA, and India, if these people are going to integrate and handle the data, these people need a data warehouse, and to integrate the data in oneness and make the single format data, people need ETL tool. So right now, see here a basic structure for ETL. Here, extraction means extract the data from the disparate sources. Transformations means we have so many components like filter, expressions, lookup, like the so on. We depend upon the requirement, we perform the transformations on the data and transform the data into the load in the target. Here, the good thing is that we won't work on data, which we majorly in ETL tool Informatica we only use metadata, which whatever the metadata have there, we use only metadata and perform the operations on those metadata, and perform the operations on those metadata and transform the data into the load. Means here, whatever the mappings we design, mappings in the sense, for example, anyone who is working on Oracle, like if you perform any select query, select star from EMP, at the time what will happen? It will go and hit the database and get the data from the database, right? Here we have performed code, means a single a query. Select star from is a query which hit the database and get the data from the database. Actually, what it would happen? A parse engine is reading the data. So probably in the same way in Informatica also, we have a transformation in a GUI format. We do in Informatica, 75% is GUI and 25% is code based. Means actually in the least case, in few cases we will use code. At the time we use code, most probably we go for GUI only. GUI in the sense here we no need to write the code for extract the data and transform the data and load the data. We use only drag and drop options from the different components and perform the operations only. For example, you who are new to the Informatica, they may not know what is the transformation. Actually, most people you know that how to work on SQL, right? So the basic thing to whenever you are going to learn Informatica, the basic thing is you should know the how SQL works. You should know how SQL works and queries, whatever the queries, and a basic thing about PLSQL. Apart from that, if these people are apart from that, they should have to know about different databases, what is in current market. We should apply the query on the databases. We hit the database and get the data from the sources, right? In the same manner, here ETL tool works. Means whenever we perform any operations in Informatica, it will get the data from the different sources and transform the data and load the data into the target as per our requirement. Here in this slide, you are viewing three operations. One is extraction and transformation and loading. Here extraction will done by Informatica Power Center only, and transformation and loading. These all three things will do by Informatica Power Center only. But here one more thing is that whenever we are going to work on Informatica, we require here in this slide I'm showing about sources. Here two disparate sources are there. One is Oracle and one more thing is EMP. So here we have two different sources. If you want to integrate both the data in these sources into the single target, at a time we can't able to integrate the source Oracle and EMP into the single target, right? So but we have a tools like ETL. Okay, here we have two sources. One is Oracle and one more is EMP. Here we are going to integrate the data by using a tool called Informatica. People will use Informatica tool to integrate the data from disparate sources. Here disparate sources in the sense source and EMP. But whenever in real time we have so many sources like XML files, COBOL files, and some media files, so many things are there. At that time we can use Informatica to integrate the data from the disparate sources and send the data to the target. Why we use Informatica here means we use Informatica to integrate the data, and if you want to change any formats or any to make a single truth value in the data warehouse, at the time we use Informatica ETL tool. Right now, see here Oracle EMP is a text file and Oracle is a database. Here we use the Informatica to transform the data to the target. Target is nothing but the Oracle. Means we have two sources. One is Oracle and EMP, and we perform the transformations on those two data and integrate the Oracle. So this is the major region. This is the most important thing to use Informatica to integrate the data into the data warehouse. And here some basic outline for Informatica architecture here. Say we have a different sources here, AAS, IBS, and so many data sources. We can use different data sources to integrate the data from these sources. And here, first of all, if you want to integrate the data, first of all we go for in different levels. First of all, for example, take some IRCTC. Take some IRCTC example. If you if you want to open IRCTC homepage around 11:30, at that time you can't able to open the IRCTC application around 11:30. Why? Because at that time these people are going to back up the data for 11:30 to 12:30. At that time, what will happen? Data from data sources to staging. Staging means these people will maintain some other databases to stage the data. Stage means nothing but a in general thing as a backup. You can think as a staging as a backup. From staging, we can perform another ETL process to generate the reports to the data warehouse and for decision making. Here, data sources are different data sources. As I said in my example for IRCTC, at the time people will use a different databases. Like if you, for example, these people use Oracle as a database at the time from transaction databases. Transaction database nothing but day-to-day transaction. Whatever the transaction you are performing right today means, for example, if you go to the some store or any Vodafone store or any basic grocery stores, whatever it may be, if you want to purchase anything at the time, whatever the operations do by these people come under the transaction at the time where this data will be stored in database. From see, for example, here if in transaction databases memory is low. Why? Because see, for example, daily you can perform some thousands of transactions at the time. You need some fast retrieval of data from the database, right? But if in case if you feel some inconvenience there to retrieve the data at the time, what will happen? Customer won't be stay anymore and business will be degraded. So at the time, so we people mostly use databases for transaction purpose and data warehouse for analysis purpose. The overall thing for you integrating the data for analysis and decision making. First of all, we need to take the data from databases to staging area. Staging is nothing but there itself we maintain some databases. Here we can use Oracle and database, what it may be, but mostly staging is for backup the data. From staging to data warehouse, we perform ETL, another ETL process here. In this slide, you are in different data sources and the staging area, data warehouse. Different data sources means you may use database or COBOL files, text files, and media files, whatever it may be, and we perform ETL here. Here, extraction is the major thing. We didn't perform any transformation and loading here. That's why I make it E as a bold in red one. Means here, from data sources to staging, we perform only extract the data. Extract the data in the sense, extract the data from source to staging area. Here, in this staging area, we perform only extraction. At that, in this intermediate, we can perform a small operations like to filter something, but mostly we won't use any transformation here in staging area. After staging area, we perform so many transformation as per our requirement given by the client. We need to generate the reports and generate the databases here. So probably in data warehouse, whatever the data in data warehouse, whatever the data we are integrating, we can use this data for analysis and decision making. Okay, here from data sources to staging and staging to data warehouse, we use ETL. We use Informatica here in this area to extract the data from the data sources. Here for extraction have two phases. One is pull and push. We call pull and push. Pull in the sense whenever, for example, coming to banking project, mostly at the time what happened, these people won't give credentials to the working workers, means users who are creating the mappings, who are generating the reports, who are creating the data warehouse. At the time, these people, bank people, won't give credentials to the users. So at the time, by bank people means who hired some ETL developer itself work to send the data from their sources to the staging area. And here, from here, we people who are going to work as a ETL developer get the data from the staging area and transform the data to the data warehouse by using Informatica ETL tool here. And this process may be take along 1 to 5 years, 2 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years, like that, so on. But what the in data warehousing also we have so many things. Means, for example, first of all, we generate the reports, and again, apart from the daily basis, we have to use this mapping as creating the data warehouse. So the work of ETL developers is to create the mapping. What is mapping? Mapping means nothing but a collection of transformations to transform the data from source to data warehouse. Mapping means nothing but a collection of transformations and source connections and their target connections. All this comes under mapping. At the time, all these things will go and transform the data into the data warehouse by using the Informatica ETL tool. Here, as a developer, people should have to work on mostly on a designer part. We will see what are the components we have in. See, here in Power Center, we have some 5 clients here. One is, say, repository manager and designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. These are the 4 clients people will give whenever you install a client application, Informatica client application on your system, on your PC. At the time, you will find these 4 components: repository manager, designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. And what about administrator console? This is related to the admin part. Coming to, first of all, let me to explain about these components first. See, as a developer, people mostly work here in this area. This part is called designer. In the designer, we people, as a developer, people will create the mappings. Whatever the transformation as per the requirement they had made to create the mappings, these people will create the mappings here in designer as per their requirement. And the workflow manager and workflow monitor. Here, workflow manager and repository manager, stay here. Whatever the mappings we create in designer, we should have to run the mapping. So whatever the mapping you create in designer, that will reside in one more component called session. What is session? Session will allow to reside the mapping to run whatever the transformation you have designed in the mappings. First of all, coming to designer part. In designer, we use source, targets, and what is the source, what is the targets. Either it is a file, either it is a table structure, or XML file, or COBOL file, like this. We should have to mention all the things in the designer part. Then we should have to, if in case if you want to use any transformations, like if you want to filter any data from source to target, for example, filtering the data in the sense, coming to in Oracle, you have a EMP table, no? At EMP table, if you want to get the data from EMP table only department wise data, for example, department 10 data, what will you do? You will write the query in Oracle like select star from EMP where department number equal to 10. At the time, what will happen? All the data, whatever the rows contain department number 10 will get into your database. Okay, get into the database, get into the it will be displayed on your monitor. But here in designer also we should have to mention what is the source, what is the target, and what is the transformation you are going to use. In designer we have a one component called filter. We use filter to filter the data, whatever you mention. See, in query you mentioned where department number equal to 10, right? Here in filter you have to mention a where class condition like where department number equal to 10. That's enough. If you save that mapping, after that it will after that we have to run that mapping, right? So for that we need to go for workflow manager. In workflow manager we need to create a session. What is session? Sorry, what is session? Here session will take the mappings, whatever you saved in the designer, it will reside on the session. Whenever you execute, if you want to execute the mappings, you need to you have to come here in workflow manager, here in workflow manager to run the mappings whatever you create in the designer. For example, if you want to create a mapping whose values means if you want to create a mapping, the rows which contain department number 10 into the target, whatever the mappings you have designed the designer, that should to be execute here in the workflow manager. In workflow manager we do have a session like thing, we need to run that session. You will see when we are working on practical thing, at that time you will understand very well what is a session, what is a mapping, and what are the transformation, all those things. But right now, as a basic thing you can understand, you have to imagine what we work in designer. You have to imagine what is the use of workflow manager. Here designer is part is to create the mappings, means what are the transformation if you want to apply, you need to apply all the transformation in here designer part. By coming to workflow manager, here you need to run the mapping. Here in mapping, here we create first of all session and reset the mapping in the session, we run the mapping. At the time whatever the result we will get, we will see here in the workflow manager itself. Or else if you do have some any error in your mappings at a time, you need to check what is the error, right? At the time we need to go for workflow manager, workflow monitor. Here designer is to create the mappings, workflow for creating the sessions and run the mappings, and workflow monitor is monitor the records, whether your records are passed successfully or not, at what time, at what speed, and how much time it has taken. All those things will display here in workflow monitor. These are the most important thing for the developer. Mostly developer work in these three areas. Here designer for creating the mappings, workflow manager for creating the session and to execute the mappings, and monitor for monitor the data, whether your data is successfully passed or not. Coming to this area, here repository manager. Repository manager here, this is one of the client application which is already placed in your PC whenever you install any client, whenever you install Power Center. Here repository, this part is regarding to the admin. Who administrator, who is the admin, people will create the folders, objects, users, groups, connections, and permissions, all those things. Come to the first here. See, repository manager will help to create users. What is meant by user? First of all, coming to the users. What is users? Here, not users, sorry, folders. Yes, here folders. Actually, what is folders? Here, in folders, for example, whenever you are going to work in any project, at the time, people need a folder to work, right? At the time, you should have to ask the admin part that we need a folder to work. At the time, admin people will log into the repository manager and create the folder, and these people will give the permissions on that particular folder. And you may ask that what is the permissions? Actually, in a project, this different level of people will be there, as a developer, tester, and project manager, and so on and so on and so on, right? So for different people, different permissions are there to edit the data. These people only give for permissions for the developers, like that. For tester also, these people only give edit options for testers, like that. But admin people and project manager mostly have their permissions to work on folders itself. And in case it is not only thing that in most of the companies, even though these people give the permissions to create the repository and folders as per their requirement, and if they have to be secure more, then these people will use folders and connections as their secure one. But coming to administrator console, this is a web application. Web application in the sense, like if you want to type anything on your Google page, what will happen? It will directly hit to the database and get the Gmail, whatever the mails do you have in your space, right? In the same way, in administration console, here administrator what will do? First of all, it will create the users and give the permissions for the specific users, and whatever the permission does it require for the specific developer, all those things will be mentioned in the administrative console part. Mostly who are going to work as a developer, no need to worry about the administrative console. But in case if you have a smart knowledge on administrative console also, that is a great one. But as a developer, we people won't go for administrator and a repository manager mostly. But somehow mostly designer and workflow manager and monitor is the major thing for a developer part, and the admin part for repository manager and administrator console here. And coming to here, the most important thing is we have explained only whatever the clients we have. One is repository manager, administrator console, designer, workflow manager. But these are the application, one repository manager, designer. Apart from administration console, all these four are will be available in your client application whenever you install in your PC. But administration console is a web application that will directly come from the web browser to the server. Right now we are going to discuss about what is server. See, this is the architecture for Informatica Power Center. In this page itself, you will learn most things, how a Informatica ETL tool works, what is the major motto, and what is the internal process for Informatica working right now. Here, see, in the left hand side, you will see a box like with the name sources, right? Here sources, he indicates we can use disparate sources. As I said in the initial slides, that we can use disparate sources for Informatica as a source, and here sources like relational tables, flat files, web services, mainframes, others. So many things we can use as a source for a mapping and for Informatica projects. And right now, here coming to here, Power Center client. In the bottom left, you will find Power Center clients. See here, designer, workflow manager, workflow monitor, and deposit. These are all the four components present in your client application. With this client application, you are going to work in your projects. As I said, repository manager is related to the admin part, but coming to designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor is related to the development part. In designer, as I said, we create the mapping. In workflow manager, we create the session and we create the sessions and run the mappings. And workflow monitor, we monitor the things whatever we run in the workflow manager. Again, designer for mappings, workflow manager for run the mapping by creating the sessions, and we monitor the result here in workflow. But repository manager, we create the folders, connections, and objects like this one. But as a developer, these three things you should have to be mostly focused on. And coming to this part, see here, totally these client tools we install in your the organization people will install client tools in your PC and connect those clients with the TCP IP to the server. What is server, and what is the importance of server in Informatica? Here, why we need a server means, see here, whenever you are going to work, if 100 users are there, we need to communicate, and at the time we need a server to handle all the users. So in Informatica we have two parts. One is, in Informatica we have two parts. One is server and client. Server means that is nothing but a node, that is nothing but a system, means nothing but a PC, like some server means a PC. In that particular PC we will install in Informatica server. and from there we will communicate to our personal PCs where we install our client applications. From designer, when whatever we create, it will directly go to the server and hit the server and save the mapping. First of all, I need to tell you what is the components present in the server when we install Informatica server. For example, see, domain is a primary unit. Primary unit means we can install Informatica server in many PCs, but we need to tell that which is the main gate, means a gateway, which is the major gateway for all the nodes. For example, we have so many nodes, but we should have to define a primary unit domain for those all the nodes. But what is node? Noding is nothing but a system. And say here, in your PCs you will find service manager here. In PCs you will find service manager here. In what service manager will do, whenever you install Informatica in your system, at the time integration service will install. Whenever you install Informatica in your PC, in your server node, at the time integration service will install and repository service will install. Both these two services will handle by the service manager. What is the use of integration service? What is the use of repository service? We discuss right now. First of all, see, this is whole thing is a server, and whenever you install any Informatica server, at the time service manager have two services. One is integration service, second one is repository services. Here, what is the use of what integration service work, what repository service work, we will see right now. Whatever the mappings you design in designer part will go to the server and save into the repository. Here, say repository, power center repository means whatever you design, means mappings, sessions, workflows, whatever. As I said, just imagine in designer we create mappings. Mapping means nothing but a GUI, which is nothing but a query, but in the GUI format. A mapping is a GUI, but it is a query, but it is in a GUI format that will place in the repository, power center repository here. And the workflow manager, whatever the session you will create, that will place in the power center repository. Whole thing will reside, whatever the designer, workflow, all these things will be reside here in the repository manager. But as I said, whenever you go for Informatica, the data, we won't save the data in the repository. We only save the metadata. Metadata is nothing but the definition. For example, a table, take a table EMP. In that table, you have EMP number, ename, salary, so on, right? All those comes under metadata. Whatever the metadata you have in table, that will reside in the repository. In Informatica, people work only on metadata. So right now, I'm going to tell the execution part of the Informatica right now. See. Source, take source as a tables. Okay, tables, for example, EMP, relational table. I have taken a relational table here, EMP. Right now, from EMP, my scenario is to get the data. Here in EMP table, I have so many rows, right? But in as a source is EMP here. The target EMP_10 means in this database I need only department number 10 data. Okay, department number 10 data. But coming to EMP table, here we have department number 10, 20, 30, 40, department data. Here we have in source department number 10, 20, 30, 40. But in the target we need only department number 10 data. At that time, right now we are going to use Informatica here. By using Informatica, we get the data from the source and transform the data as per our requirement. In Informatica, we will apply some filter condition like department number 10 here. Based upon the condition, whatever we mention in the transformations in the designer part, with respect to that, data will be filtered and get to the target. Target is nothing but a database, source is nothing but a database. Or else if you want to go for target as a text file, you can go. You can transform the data from disparate sources to disparate target also. If you want to copy the data to the different sources also, you can go with the router options. We have so many transformation, but whenever we go for practical things, at that time I discuss all the things.